Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this online event. My name is Ruslan Yusupov. I teach in the Department of Religious and Cultural Studies within the stream called Arab Studies Minor. And I am going to be a moderator for today's event. So first of all, why study Islam? Right? Apart from the fact that understanding Islam makes a part of our legacy of being a citizen in the 21st century, Hong Kong is also a place for a very vibrant and very diverse Muslim community. And we made this event out of the recognition that there are probably many people within the Muslim community here in Hong Kong and probably also elsewhere, where people have this anxiety of, on the one hand, trying to secure a place in the future by receiving a good education and finding a job, but at the same time, the anxiety to stay rooted in one's own culture and be able to develop a language by which to explain that culture to many people with whom Muslims are living side by side today. So, and at the same time, you probably know that the education department has introduced a new model called the rise of Islamic civilization and interactions of Islam with other cultures in medieval times as a part of the history study in the second school curriculum. So, so there is this general interest in studying Islam and understanding Islam, and CUHK has been at the forefront of introducing the study of Islam and generally the study of Middle East, where Islam originated from, at the level of undergraduate and graduate studies here in Hong Kong. In this case, among other universities, CUHK is really occupies a very unique place and offers very unique opportunities to students both from the Muslim background and the students who are very interested in studying Islam and Arab people. And so today, as a part of the event, we invited Professor Tam Wai Lun, the director in the Department of Cultural and Religious Studies, and at the same time, Professor James Frankel, who is a director of the Center for the Studies of Islamic Culture, to share with us what are the opportunities that CUHK can offer when it comes to studying academic study of Islam and the developing general interest in the study of the Arab and the Muslim world at large. And so today, we will first start with Professor Tam Wai Lun giving us a brief introduction, which will be then followed by Professor James Frankel. And then we will dedicate a bulk of time for the Q&A session, where if you have questions, you can bring these questions and just make it as a semi-formal, informal kind of online chat conversation room where you can share with us your own questions and where we can kind of reflect on the general interest that you have in this regard. If there are participants who are joining us and have some sort of difficulty with understanding the English language in which this session will be conducted, or if you have some anxieties related with the kind of telling us your own question in English language, I will be serving as a translator from Chinese, 普通话 Chinese to English and from English to 普通话. So 我叫尤老师，我今天的 event 的 moderator。如果您有一些什么听不懂的一些 一些细节，或者是你有一些问题，但是呢就不觉得不好意思用英语表达，我来翻译您的问题给我们2位老师，同时呢他们回答您的问题的时候，我来把他们的回答翻译给你们。那么 without further ado, let me first pass the stage to Professor Tham Vai Lun. Professor Tham Vai Lun is former chair of the Department of Cultural and Religious Studies. He received his master's and doctoral degrees in Chinese Buddhism from McMaster University in Canada. He has been conducting research funded by the Competitive General Research Fund, provided by the Hong Kong Research Grants Council and the Chan Chin-ko Foundation for International Scholarly Exchange to study local religion and society in Southeast China through extensive fieldwork. He currently serves as academic specialist in the Arts Division of the Hong Kong Council for Accreditation of Academic and Vocational Qualifications and as a Hong Kong Certificate Examination Buddhist Studies Subject Committee member of the Hong Kong Examination and Assessment Authority. He has initiated a scheme of professorship in Indian religions and cultures in CUHK. He is also a founding and executive member of the Center for the Study of Humanistic Buddhism and the Center for Catholic Studies in CUHK. So please welcome Professor Tham Vai Lun. You need to unmute yourself, Professor Tam.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Good.
Thank you for Ruslan's introduction. I'm so glad to see so many people, although most of you have turned off your camera. So I invite you, if you can, please, you could also turn on your camera so that we can meet each other despite the pandemic. I strongly believe that, physically we have to be separated, but socially we have to remain connected. So today well, first of all, my name is Wylan Tam. I have been teaching here for a long time, since 1995. And I was an undergraduate student from here as well, so I'm alumni as well. And then I went to Canada to study my postgraduate studies. Today, I'm going to just give you a very brief introduction to our new program, minor program in Arab Studies, and introduce to you some of the Islamic study in Chinese U. So leaving you more time for questions. So I have a short PowerPoint. So let me share the screen. That I should also thanks for the, let me enlarge it so that you can see more clearly. I should thanks for the help of our Islamic Center. The staff has helped me to prepare this PowerPoint. As I said, we have a new minor program for undergraduate study in recent years. So we would like to introduce that to you, meaning that for all those who have entered Chinese U, now they could choose to minor in Arab studies, provided by our department. By the way, I'm from the Department of Cultural and Religious Studies. Later on, I would also introduce to you one of our taught program, Master of Arts in Religious Studies, which has many potential in developing in Islamic and Arab studies. Okay, this is a picture from our department. For those who know Rao Zhongyi, those are the calligraphy written by Rao Zhongyi before his death, the name of our department. Yeah, we have been, well, no need to pay too much attention to the ranking as they are fluctuating from year to year, but we have been known to be the best in Asia in religious studies for the past 3 years. Yes, we have a new minor program, which is a comprehensive program. including linguistic studies and history, and of course, religion, open to all undergraduate students. And it's a new program, so we do not have too many courses at the beginning, but we do have a couple of courses, as you can see from this slide, from introduction to Islam to history of the Arabic world. Of course, we have Arab studies, the language, study the Arabic. And we have a very popular course which we introduced before this program called the Fieldwork in Islamic Culture and Religion that perhaps James will tell you more about. Now, this is the program structure. Basically, students are asked to take 18 credits, and then they could claim a minor in Arab studies. And note that there are stars because we have a deep collaboration with the linguistic department. So they also help us to offer courses in Arabic. We also have our own course in Arabic. We concentrate on the classic Arabic, while they will teach more on modern Arabic. So as I said, this is from Department of Linguistics and Modern Language. They have 3 courses which collaborate with us. So these are the language. Who are teaching the course? We have, of course, James Franco, who will speak to you shortly. And Ruslan, you have met him. And also Imam Young, who will teach, who is actually right now is teaching Arabic language for us, mostly based on Quran, which is a little bit different from the modern language department's language course. Okay. As I mentioned, we have a very popular fieldwork courses, which we spend 1 week overseas. We have been in Turkey, Northwest China, UAE, and we plan for more destination. I trust James will talk more because he is the one who teaches the course. Okay, the rest of time we talk about, we also have a taught master program for those who has already got a BA program. This is a taught program in religious studies. We have planned to develop more on Islam. Right now, we have only 1 courses in Islam, but depending on the number of students we have, we will develop even a whole area or a stream in Islamic studies. So there is a potential there. But right now, the master program is on religious studies, as you can see, covering in Hindu, Chinese, Christian, and most major religion in the whole world. We have many different areas, as you can see, society and culture, life and wisdoms, and so on and so forth. Note that we have a special topic in religious study, which we can easily turn into Islamic studies. And because we have a visiting scholar scheme in our Center for Islamic Studies, so we invite scholars from all over the world, and they will teach for us, and this would be the courses they would teach. You could study the MA as a full-time, would spend 1 year, or a part-time 2 years. And this is the tuition fee, which is set by the graduate school. All right, we have already started the application procedures. That these are the date, and also we have note that we have 2 streams: a research stream and a taught stream. The program I've been talking about is a taught program, which does not require you to write a thesis. But if you are interested in doing a regular what we call M.Phil master program research stream, which require a thesis, The difference is that you will have subsidies from the government once you are admitted for the M.Phil and Ph.D, and which is also open for application. All right, so there are plenty of opportunities. Oh, by the way, this is in a few days we will have our M.Phil. If you are interested, I urge you to join our another information on the M.Phil and Ph.D in religious studies. Okay, which start in November 17. Okay, that's all about the program information. I would also like to talk a little bit about. I was told that probably I should also let me share our screen again. I mean, share my screen again to all of you. A few more. Share screen. Yeah, that's it. As I said, Chinese U is determined to internationalize our campus. So we welcome international students and non-local students. Non-local student meaning, you know, not only international student, but student from China, from Taiwan, from, you know, overseas Chinese, also international students. And we have International Student Association, which, you know, offer you a lot of support. We have a very strong Office of Student Affairs, offering a lot of support for non-local students, international students, undergraduate and postgraduate. And we have equal opportunity policy, you know, to support. And we have a new office on diversity and inclusion office. This is a new one, just to make sure we have a diverse, multicultural, and innovative campus, embracing diversity in all aspects. So these are our vision. And to support the internationalization, the university have provide funding for organizing international activities. And we have been making a good use of that. That's why, as you can see from these pictures, for the last 4 years, we have been organizing Islamic Cultural Festival, a very fantastic, you know, event, also well received on campus, which has been slowed down by the pandemic. But once it's over, there will be a fifth one, you know. Of course, we cannot, we will also organize iftar dinner after the Ramadan. I must mention about support from the Center for the Study of Islamic Culture. Professor James Frankel will be the director, working closely with Ruslan, offering a lot of support, including organizing Friday prayer and all that activity for students. Of course, it's a research-oriented unit promoting research on Islam. And even before, the center was set up in 2013. But even before that, we also already organized a lot of activities from Imam and Aida, who is now working with us in the center, starting from, you know, year 2007. Also, I would like to mention about our department, talking about diversity. We have different kind of research center supporting research on different religions, of course, including our Center for the Islamic Culture. Okay, I think that's all that I would like to share with you today. So back to you, Ruslan.
Yes, thank you so much. That was very insightful. And so now I would like to pass the stage to Professor James Frankel, who is director in the Center for the Studies of Islamic Culture here in CUHK. And he is a native New Yorker. He holds a bachelor degree in East Asian Studies and postgraduate degrees in religion from Columbia University. His expertise is in the history of Islam in China, and his scholarly interests emphasize the comparative history of ideas and religious and cultural syncretism. So he is the author of the book called Rectifying God's Name, Logis Confucian Translation of Monotheism and Islamic Law from University of Hawaii Press. And he has recently completed a monograph on the history of Islam in China. Dr. Frankel teaches and researches in the areas of Islam, comparative religion, Chinese religions, religious fundamentalism, and mysticism. So please join me in welcoming Professor James Frankel.
Thank you very much, Ruslan and Professor Tam for helping to introduce our program. Let me begin by saying Assalamu alaikum to all of our participants today. Very, very happy to see so many people joining us. So Professor Tam has already introduced a lot of our programs and our initiatives at Chinese University. I will follow that up by adding a few points, and I will also talk a little bit more about graduate studies, postgraduate studies, having to do with Islamic studies and religious studies in general. So I also have a very short PowerPoint to share with you. So please let me do that with you. So, as Professor Tam said, we begin in Cultural and Religious Studies Department with the Bachelor of Arts degree. And this is your first step in the university. And as you can see, depending on your interests and depending on your initiative and your desire to study and acquire knowledge, you can climb the mountain of knowledge, which begins, as I said, with the Bachelor of Arts degree. And then if you choose, as Professor Tam said, we also have the Master of Arts degree, the Master of Philosophy degree, which is a more advanced master's degree. And finally, if you choose, I guess you can say the pinnacle of academic study in any world university is the PhD, the Doctor of Philosophy degree. This is the highest degree that is conferred by universities, and it also is, I guess you can say, the longest in terms of time that you would have to devote. So I will talk a little bit about our bachelor's program, although Professor Tam has given most of the background for that. But I will say, in addition to this new program that our department is offering in Arab studies, of course, students are also welcome to do a major in religious studies. And religious studies, I would say, well, as you see, our department is very highly ranked in offering the program in religious studies. And I would like to say that actually my colleagues are some of the top experts in their field. Of course, we teach many different religious traditions, not only Islam. So if you were to study religious studies at the Chinese University in our department, then you would learn about other religions as well as the history of studying religion. So this is, of course, an option for anyone who is interested in that subject. But of course, as Professor Tam said, we have this new minor program in Arab studies. So regardless of what your major is in your undergraduate bachelor studies, you can still have a concentration in Arab studies. And clearly there is some connection between Arab studies and the study of Islam. Of course, they are not the same thing, but there are important connections, important overlaps between those two fields of study. So if you were to study Arab studies, you would also have concentration in certain aspects of the Islamic tradition. So it's important to know that you can get what I consider to be a world-class education. You know, you can receive a degree that is recognized around the world, and certainly, you know, is a preparation for your future career, whatever your career may be. And, but at the same time, for people who are interested in Islam, for people who have a personal commitment to the Islamic tradition, either from their families or their own search for meaning in life, you can satisfy both of these requirements. You can study and get a degree from a world-class university while not neglecting the study of Islam, which is important for everyone, as Ruslan told us, but especially for people coming from a Muslim background. So, you know, in Islam, we say that deen and dunya, right? Religion and the world, life in this world, are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they support one another. When we study our deen, when we study Islam, we are also preparing ourselves for life in this world. So I want you to know that at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, you can prepare for your life in this world, and at the same time, you can focus on your interests in Islamic religion and tradition and also culture. So in addition to being a professor of religious studies in the Department of Cultural and Religious Studies, I'm also the director, as Ruslan has said, and also Professor Tam, I'm also the director of a center on our campus, the Center for the Study of Islamic Culture, which was established about 5 years ago for the special purpose. Actually, we have two missions, which I believe complement one another. Our first mission is that we are a research center. So we are producing scholarship. We are producing kind of scholarly material and studies about Islam, with a special focus on Islam in China. So that is one of our purposes. And in that regard, we produce publications, books, journal articles from our scholars in the department. We also host guest lectures from prominent scholars around the world. And we also host international conferences. So if you are a student at the Chinese University and are interested in, you know, in more scholarly discussions about Islam and Islamic studies, this is available to you from our center. The second mission of our center is to promote knowledge and understanding of Islam in the greater Hong Kong community, in the greater Hong Kong society. And as part of that, we also serve the Muslim community here in Hong Kong. So we work very closely with our brothers and sisters in the various Islamic institutions and organizations in Hong Kong. And very importantly, if you are a Muslim student at Chinese University, you should know that the Center for the Study of Islamic Culture is a home for you as well, that we will help to provide for your social and religious needs. As Professor Tam said, we host, or we conduct Jummah prayers every Friday. Of course, when we are able to do that in person, when we are not fighting a pandemic. But also, as Professor Tam showed, we have celebrations of the Islamic festivals. We participate, or we share Ramadan together, iftar dinners. We celebrate Eid together. And we also have other social and cultural events around the calendar. So if you were to join us at Chinese University as a student, you should know that there is a community there for you as well. Okay, so that is my general introduction to Islamic life, I guess you could say, on campus. Now I want to talk to you, before I talk about some of the programs or courses that Professor Tam mentioned, I also want to share with you something about the graduate studies. So for those of you who may already have completed your Bachelor of Arts degree, and you want to go on for a more advanced postgraduate degree, these are the degrees that we offer. The bachelor's degree is usually 4 years. The MA takes about 1 to 2 years. If you do an M.Phil, that usually takes about 2 years. And then the PhD degree is 3 to 4 years. So as you see, as you climb that mountain, this is the time commitment that you would have to put in. Let me tell you a little bit about the requirements. So in the M.Phil degree, this is, as I said, it's usually a 2-year program, and it can be a terminal degree. You can finish with an M.Phil, but most people actually who do the M.Phil will later go on for the higher degree of Doctor of Philosophy, the PhD. In the 2 years that you are in the M.Phil program, the first year would include coursework. You would have to do courses, general courses in religious studies concerning the history, the methods, and the theories of religious studies. And you would also maybe do your language preparation. And then in the second year, you would mostly work on your research for the writing of an M.Phil thesis. So an M.Phil thesis is basically a long research paper in which you will focus on a particular question or a particular topic within religious studies. And if you decide that you want to focus on Islamic studies, of course you can do that. You would probably work with me because I am the resident professor specializing in Islamic studies. So, hi. And if you decide to go on further for the doctoral degree, the PhD, then this is usually a 3 to 4 year commitment. In the first year, you would do coursework, similar to the M.Phil degree. In your second year, you would continue to do coursework and you would prepare yourself to take the qualifying exams that are necessary, required for each PhD candidate. And then you would write your research proposal because, of course, as a PhD student, you have to produce a lengthy and in-depth study, which will take the form of a dissertation. So the dissertation and the research for your dissertation usually occupies your 3rd and or 4th years of the PhD program. Research can include, it depends on the nature of your study. You may do a lot of library research, or you may do research in the field. And what I mean by that is going out and studying your topic in the world. And especially if this topic relates to contemporary issues, you might work with communities, you might work with living representatives of the tradition that you are studying. So at the very end of your process, you will write your dissertation. This is obviously a much, much longer paper. I don't want to scare you because many of you are still secondary school students, but the dissertation is almost like writing a book. But it is a very in-depth study of your research topic. But again, if you're still in secondary school, or even if you're in your undergraduate years, you don't have to worry about this right now. In fact, everything that you're doing now is preparation for your more advanced studies if you choose to follow that path. Now, if you are a graduate student, a postgraduate student, either the PhD or M.Phil, you will be expected to participate also in teaching and research at the university in coordination and under the supervision of one of our professors, or more than one of our professors, because each semester, you would be expected to serve as an assistant, either as a teaching assistant, in which case you would serve as a tutor for the undergraduate students, working with the course lecturer or professor, or you might be assigned as a research assistant, in which case you would work closely with a professor, assisting him or her with research. Either way, it's a very good learning experience if you wish eventually to be a scholar and professor yourself. Now, studentship actually refers mostly to financial matters. If you are admitted to the religious studies M.Phil or PhD program, postgraduate students are eligible to receive a postgraduate studentship, which really means financial support during your years of study. The PGS, or the postgraduate studentship for M.Phil students for 2 years, carries a stipend of $17,000 per month. And the PGS for PhD students carries a stipend of 17,000 Hong Kong dollars per month for the first 2 years, and then $18,000 per month for the remaining 1 to 2 years, depending on how long you remain in the program. So what does this mean? These are the financial realities of graduate studies. So postgraduate students are responsible for paying their tuition, which is $21,000 per term, per semester, or $42,000 for the whole academic year. So when you get your PGS, which provides the stipend, as I mentioned, either for M.Phil or PhD students, in your first 2 years, you will receive $17,000 per month. So you multiply that by 12 months, which equals $204,000 for the whole year. And then you subtract from that the $42,000 for your annual tuition, which leaves you with $162,000 per year, or $13,500 per month. And this goes towards your living expenses, whatever your living expenses may be. And this may include your food, your lodging, your housing, and whatever other expenses you may have, your transportation, your books, So of course you have to live within this budget, depending on your own financial resources. So, and of course, if you are a PhD student, you will receive an extra $1,000 per month in your in your third or fourth year. So that should give you an idea of how you may support yourself and support your studies if you go on for an advanced postgraduate degree. Now, what do you do? What do you do if you are a postgraduate study? What will you study? Now, of course, this is entirely up to you and entirely up to your interests and your imagination. So people under my supervision just in the last few years, since I've been a professor at CUHK, have studied a wide range of topics that have to do with Islam. M.Phil projects. These are 2 of the M.Phil projects that I have supervised with my students. The first, it's a very long title, but as I told you, it can be very in-depth studies. So one of our students, who is a local Hong Kong student, very successful student, he studied genealogical explorations of Hui identity and secularity, social historical reflections on identification of Muslims in late imperial China and Chinese nation states, through the concepts of differentiation and reference problem. I don't even know exactly what all of that means, and I read his paper. But what he basically was doing was studying the identity of Chinese Muslims and how this identity has evolved from the times of imperial China all the way into the modern period. And he did a study that included both the study of the term Hui and also of how it has been used in different periods of Chinese history, creating a Chinese Muslim identity. More recently, and even right now, I have a student from the mainland who is studying the topic of religious syncretism. And that means the synthesis or the combining of different religious and cultural, let's say, how can I explain it? Different religious and cultural aspects. So in the case of Islam, Muslims have lived for a very long time in China, and therefore they have been strongly influenced by Chinese culture. So she is studying religious syncretism, Islam, Chinese popular religion, and Hui identity in Northwest China. Okay, she's still working on that, so we'll see how it shapes up. And then the PhD projects that I have supervised in the last few years, one was by a student coming from Bangladesh, who wrote a comparative study on a Christian theologian and a Muslim scholar, and how they both dealt with the environment. So religious perspectives on environmental issues. So you see there's a wide range of topics, including some very important contemporary issues that are really vital to our world today. You don't have to study something historical. You don't have to study something that has to do with China. You know, I'm prepared to help supervise you even in topics that have to do with globalization, world affairs, and how these relate to different facets of Islam. I have another student who is working on a very interesting topic of Hui identity in the context of intermarriage between Hui Chinese Muslims and Han Chinese. And she also is studying how this manifests itself in Northwest China, particularly in Ningxia. And then I have another student from Bangladesh who is writing her thesis about Bangladeshi Muslims and their attitude towards religious diversity or religious differences. And she is taking an anthropological approach. So also that's important to note that we have different styles or different methodologies for how you might approach your studies: anthropology, history, literature, social sciences. So really, what kind of project you do is only limited by your own imagination. And if you are interested in any aspect of the Islamic tradition, you can probably find a topic that that is feasible, that is practical within our department. And I would be glad to listen to your ideas and see how we can accommodate them. So that's the end of my slideshow, but I do have just a few comments since Professor Tam mentioned one of our undergraduate courses in Islamic studies or in Arab studies. This course is the fieldwork course, or the field trip in Islamic culture and religion. And it's a wonderful opportunity for what we call experiential learning, learning from experience. Remember, I said that your research can come from books, and it can come from experience in the field. That means going out into the world, interacting with people, interacting with environments in which you can find Islam and Muslim life. And that's really what this course is about. So in past years, we have been able to share with our students and introduce our students to a number of different Islamic cultures and environments, different societies. In the first year, our group went to Turkey. The next year, another group went to the northwest of China. And then in following years, one group went to Kuwait, an Arab country in the Persian Gulf. And then following that, we went to the United Arab Emirates, of course, another country in the Persian Gulf. But This year, it seems like we're going to have to adjust our plan because we can't travel internationally. So I think we're actually going to do a study of Islam in Hong Kong, which is a whole world in a city. So again, this is one of the opportunities you would have if you did our undergraduate program in religious studies or our minor program in Arab studies. So I think this is it. I'm sorry I took a little bit of time, but I welcome your questions as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. First of all, please join me in thanking Professor Tam Weilun and James Franco for giving us a really insightful introduction into the environment, the study environment of Islam and the Muslim world, and all sorts of different religious phenomena that relates with it. Now, so I would like to now go to the Q&A session. We have questions that accumulated as we were listening to our speakers.